Hello, everyone. Very good evening from India. Greetings from Global Institute of Business Studies. This is Professor Guru Prasad Rao, the host for today. I take this opportunity to welcome you all for this wonderful session, I would say, from my good friend, Professor Dr. Bert Wolfs, who is a professor and dean of academic dean of Swiss Business School, SBS Swiss Business School from Zurich, Switzerland. I'm so very happy to mention that I happened to connect with Dr. Bert a month ago, and we had a great deliberation on how we can work together. And I'm happy to announce that we have officially signed a memorandum of understanding between both, and post which this is my first event with SBS Swiss Business School, where I'm happy to invite Dr. Bert for this wonderful session on our flagship program named IRE. For those of us who are not a part of GIBS and watching us for the first time, let me tell you, IRE stands for Innovation, Research, and Entrepreneurship, which happens to be a flagship program of the GIBS Business School. And we have nurtured numerous amount of budding entrepreneurs. And I believe, this is the moral responsibility of a business school to nurture leaders and to nurture the budding entrepreneurs. And IRE is doing in its all true sense. We have in-person programs, physical workshops, we have IRE conferences, and we invite top-notch professors and entrepreneurs from different parts of the world every month on this platform. And today, we are happy to connect with Dr. Bert, who will be speaking on the theme, the innovation mindset, turning knowledge into entrepreneurial action. From the Indian perspective, I am so very happy to say that the ecosystem is now very vibrant. I can see a lot of students these days inclined towards, being an entrepreneur. And that's a great sign for the market like India. I really appreciate that. Maybe if you go 2 decades back, 3 decades back, the typical mindset was always, said that I would want to get a job, get to a decent corporate life. But now when I speak to my young students, I always listen to them saying, I want to be my own boss. I want to get into an entrepreneurship. And that's a great sign for the country and for the youth as well. So no doubt, IRE has been a flagship program on that. So Professor Bert, he's a right man today to discuss on this very important topic, a very rich academician, hardcore academician, I would say, and who has a great understanding of not just on the theoretical aspect, but the practical aspects as well, whose leadership has transformed the SBS Swiss Business School without a doubt. And I'm so very happy that GIBS was able to associate with SBS Business School and with Professor Bert. Without taking much time, sir, I extend my heartfelt welcome to you on behalf of all the audiences out here, and the forum is yours.
Namaste. Very good afternoon, Professor Prasad. Thank you very much for this wonderful introduction. You create a lot of expectations, so I'm trying to fulfill the expectations. If you can share the slides, that would be wonderful to start with. And I welcome all our audience today for an interactive and good session. Hopefully we can bring some added value towards their time, and we thank them in advance already for their participation. So, as discussed during our pre-conversations, the idea of talking about innovation is what I gladly do, and I decided that we actually have to focus on the mindset, because a lot of people know how to do things, have the knowledge, but then doing things and then converting it into an innovative new product or service, that needs, I would say, some courage, and that not everybody has. So how can we bridge psychology, strategy, and economics is actually the topic of my talk. Next slide, please. In order to start with that, we need to basically find out why some people who have brilliant ideas never became innovators. On the other hand, we also have this saying that inventors never became rich entrepreneurs. So people can invent certain things, but they're not able to commercialize these things. I think one of the most famous examples, which all our audience is aware of, is the McDonald's brothers. The McDonald's brothers developed basically the concept of the hamburger, the cheeseburger, had one restaurant, but were not able to scale it until there was a gentleman coming who was selling certain milkshakes. His name was Ray Kroc, and said, well, actually, I see here the potential how we can franchise this entire business and how we can scale the business, not even in the United States, but even into India. Knowing very well that in the United States is individual eating, and I always like the title when I'm in India, especially in Bangalore, it's called McDonald's restaurant is a family restaurant. So you see, they do the international operations with local thinking. So why is that? Why are those inventors never being able to come up with a commercially driven success? Because, let's put it very simple, what is the definition of innovation? It is invention plus commercialization. Think about yourself. You might have daily ideas. Oh, I could do this, I could do that, but you never put it into practice. Now, the question is, why don't you put it into practice? Because you have some people who are very analytical and they analyze. They look at different scenarios. They have studied 20, 30 scenarios and they still don't dare to jump into the water. You have others who are afraid to fail. I think that is, if we look at these great tech companies from the United States, especially from Silicon Valley, how come that a Facebook, how come, or Meta as it's called today, how come that a Tesla, how come that a Google are all always coming from Silicon Valley? Because it's all in our mindset. If we in Europe start a business and we fail, you know what people say? They say, look at that, excuse me my words, loser who cannot even run a company. And the financial burden is huge for them. If I go to the United States and I fail, what do the people say? Oh, we hope he will start again. He will try a second or third time in order that he will succeed. So that different mindset is actually a driver of success. I truly believe that knowledge is global, skills and intellect is global, and we are more or less equal about that. But then the drive to make it, the drive to dare to succeed is, of course, much more, especially in this case in Silicon Valley, than in other parts of the world. So why are these stories and successful stories there? And what is the difference in order to make it? I think one of the key things, which is not the same as innovation, but we need to separate it, is creativity. So how can we generate new ideas? We can have a lot of new ideas on a day-to-day basis, but then in the second phase, we have to see how can we create out of these ideas value. And if you're able to do that, then you can create wonderful services. Airbnb, I think it's a global service which everybody knows, staying on the couch in Professor Prasad's house is a perfect example of Airbnb. It started with a founder who was traveling to a particular city, couldn't find a hotel room anymore, and he thought, well, if I could go now to a particular house and I could have a room there for myself, that would be enough in order to sleep tonight, and then tomorrow I carry on. That he converted into a business from his own experience. So I encourage everyone to dare to say, once I have an idea, even on a small scale, how can I convert it? Because I see if I have a problem, other people might have the same problem. And what I'm bringing is a solution to my problem, so which others can benefit from it as well. That is the creation of the value in order then to further develop the business. The next slide, please. In order to move from that first stage, from I know and I have the problem, in order to do it, what do you need to be aware of? Well, in order to convert your idea, you need to be grateful. Grateful in the sense that you can fail several times. So I mean, there was Thomas Edison, which is the famous one, trying to invent his issue. He tried 10,000 times. 9,999 times he failed, and only the last time he succeeded. There are too many people with great ideas who give up. Yes, I have the knowledge, I know how to do it, but then how to convert it into a working product, which is a simple, which always should be simple, that I don't want to do, or I gave up. Don't, as Winston Churchill said many times, never give up. Keep on going, keep on trying, because you cannot lose anything. The only thing you can lose is that it doesn't work, and then you have to try all over again. Innovation. What is the most famous phrase from Steve Jobs? Look how innovative Apple was and where they're struggling today. But at the times of Steve Jobs, he simply said, well, for me, innovation is how to distinguish leaders from followers. Because those who come up with the ideas, those who are able to create the value, those can then succeed and create great companies and solve actually problems of people. In different industry, it doesn't have to be only in the telecom business. And what is important is that the industry and products are always subject to change. If you think something, oh, I will keep it the same forever and for the next 100 years, that will not work. Let me give you a German example. The Germans like to eat a lot of sausages. They like to eat a lot of meat. Well, due to the changing habits and the more health consciousness of Germans, the German sausage industry is in trouble. Why? Because they didn't come up with different flavors, they didn't come up with innovative products, or even they were lacking vegetarian sausages and all this. And that's why more and more German meat producers have to close. So you have to be aware of that innovation is a change process, and that is an exponential curve. It's not a linear curve, which will be the same all the time. So you have to work on that in order to improve that. Look at Netflix. We thought that we had this old video cassette recorder where we could go to the shop, rental of the video for a day or two, watch it together with the family, and then we will return the cassette to the shop owner. There was suddenly Netflix. It suddenly became over internet, and we didn't have to go to the shop anymore. We could watch it over and over again. We could even stop the video, or we could stop the movie in this particular case, go for lunch and come back and continue to watch the movie. The same concept, entertainment industry, but not anymore via the video cassette, but via internet. Same now, Netflix is giving you Bollywood movies, which you can watch without going to the cinema. So, why is it so complicated to move from knowledge towards the next page, developing your product, creating your idea in action? As I said before, because people are afraid. They think too much about what they can lose instead of what they can gain. Or you have the other extreme where they continue to overanalyze and analyze and analyze. If we look at strategy, strategy is always the same. People spend too much time in the planning phase of a strategy, and there is not enough time for execution. Let's not even talk about control, because, oh, that is next century, or it is the next CEO who will do that. Don't do that for your business. If you strongly believe that this is the way forward, you are solving a problem, which you're not the only one having that problem. There is a lot of viability for your product or services, and there is only one way to say it: just do it. So, why knowledge stalls is the next question. I think the first one we already discussed, the psychological effects from risk of failure to being too over-analytic and to be a perfectionist. One thing I have to warn you is don't become overconfident. Humbleness is the beauty of a person. So by remaining humble, analyzing what went correct and what went wrong, you can move forward. Saying, I'm the one who knows it all and I'm the only one, I think is a wrong mindset, is a wrong attitude, and it will not bring you forward. Your organization at the beginning will be a chaos because you have neither policies or procedures in place. It will be a chaos and you have to try to direct it. Once the organization is running, you become like an elephant. And you have seen in Karnataka dancing elephants. I have never seen that in my life because elephants can simply not dance. Why? Because they're too big, too heavy, and that's also how the organization becomes. It becomes too hierarchical, too many layers within the organization. They want to have return on investment now. They want to see tomorrow the results. Or you have a sales department within an organization who doesn't talk to the technical department. So the sales department doesn't even know where the product failures are and they never communicate with each other. So how can they then innovate or improve the products? We're not always talking about completely redesigning the product. No, we're also talking about incremental innovation. What is incremental innovation? It's trying to change a couple of small things in order to still improve the product. You know, you don't always have to create the fifth wheel on your Indian truck. No, if you have the fourth wheel, but the fourth wheel has the same level of pressure than the other three wheels, that is the way to go forward. And of course, in order to move forward, you need to create yourself an ecosystem. You need to have the regulation or the lack of regulation, because sometimes you can be so innovative that there is simply no innovation. I mean, the young generation is talking only about digital assets. So Bitcoin is here an example. They created Bitcoin and nobody believed it. Everybody said it's too dangerous, it's too risky and all this, because there is no regulation. Now there is regulation, but still the risk is there. So make sure that you establish yourself in an area where you can find support from the ecosystem, being it technical, being it marketing-wise, being it financial-wise. In order to, if you want, Professor, I can give you the example of electric mobility, like Ether Energy, I think, which a lot of people of our audience are familiar with, which was actually a student project on battery management. And that is today actually one of the leading electric scooter companies within India, because they found support in their ecosystem. And where is the support coming from? Well, it comes from Hero Motor Corporation, which can give you the financial funds to further develop the product. Just to illustrate what I said before. So how do we do the launch then? How do we go from our idea and our mindset to a real life? Well, there, the first thing to do is to quickly come up with your prototype. Even if we talk about Bengaluru and the software industry, people were testing the software over and over again until they didn't find the bugs anymore. And then they missed the boat because a competitor already launched a similar software solution. Don't do that. Make sure that you develop the software, even if it has bugs, but then launch it quickly. Also, one of the most famous books to read is a book from Eric Rice, which you will see, my last slide talks about further readings. I recommend that to every one of our audience in case you have not read it, to see how you can come to your lean startup. Basically, create your product, keep it simple, bring it to the market, even if it has bugs, and then you have time to improve it. Second way to go forward is cross-disciplinary teams. What do I mean by that? The best teams is, first of all, this is what the academic literature is saying. This is not what I'm saying. Academic literature says that the best teams are multi-gender teams. So we have male and female together into one team. Secondly, it is also a multifunctional team. Within a team, you have engineers, you have marketing people, you have salespeople. If I'm asking you today, who is the leader in the American refrigerator segment for households in the US today? It's not anymore Whirlpool, it's not anymore GE Electric, it is a Korean company, LG. How the hell can a Korean company in the American refrigerator be the number one? Well, the answer is here, cross-disciplinary teams. The engineer said, okay, we did our research and we see that the market wants this. Engineers, can we do this? Yes, we can develop such a product. Marketing people, can you sell that? Yes. Finance people, can you calculate at which price we could sell that product? And these decisions were made very quickly. And that allowed them to overtake the competition, to respond very well to the demand of the customers. And that's why they became market leader. And remember, it is always easier from market follower to become market leader than to remain market leader. Number 3, feedback systems and learning. Even if you graduate today, it's not the end of your learning. You will have to have lifelong learning. And it's not always in a formal process like it's happening today. It can also be very informal. You can learn how to make a better lassi, or you can make another dish if you want, but you will day-to-day learn new things. Well, the same thing should happen in your organization. Even if you're a startup and there is feedback from your customers, you should try to implement that. You should listen to your customers, how to improve your products on a day-to-day basis, not say, oh, now we're going to have a meeting and let's see how we can improve. Now, that should be part of your organizational culture. And of course, then the last one is probably the most difficult one. Is it really safe to fail? If you create such an environment into a company, then people will dare to do things, will dare to change things. And if they change things and you can commercialize, they can come up with innovative things. If you say, no, once you fail and once you make one mistake, you will be fired, nobody will dare to do anything. And it's the same thing all over again. If you care, you are accountable. If you don't care, nothing will happen. Innovation is an engine which every economy needs. I mean, we'll not talk today about the tariffs which President Trump has imposed upon India, because that will create us another 3 or 4 hours of discussion. But in order to move forward for the Indian economy, well, it needs to grow. And how can it grow? It can only grow if there are new, basically, products or services created. In order to do that, what do you need? You need brilliant engineers, you need creative people, so the labor force needs to be there, but you also need to have money. No money, no honey. So capital is a requirement. The father of all this, who started innovation, is actually an Austrian gentleman called Schumpeter. And he wrote already, if I'm not mistaken, in 1942, a book called Creative Destruction, which means that there are always market disruptors who come up with a different pricing model, a better concept, a more technological advanced concept, in order to drive out existing players. And the existing players, they always feel comfortable. We're selling very well. This is a cash cow. So why the hell should we improve our product? Why are we creating trouble for ourselves? We have a comfortable life and we would like to do that forward. This is not the case. Be careful, because you're not competing only in your local market. You'll be competing in your national market, and eventually you're competing on a global scale. So be aware that every time you need to review your product, see what the customer wants and where you can improve your product. Today, the modern view of growth economies is that we need to innovate Why do we need to innovate? Because we need to drive productivity. Productivity is not increasing because there is a lack of innovation. That's why you can see the old continent and Europe, for example, is struggling a little bit. We're not moving forward because we don't know where to go, and we are not able to improve further our productivity outputs. So this year is a very important year because the Nobel Prizes for Economics were actually given to these different gentlemen, and they're all dealing with innovation. So you can see that what we're talking about here is very up to date, is very accurate, because even they understood that the global trade and global economy is suffering a little bit, and we do not have these huge growth rates anymore than we used to have in the past. Okay, we are eternally grateful to India because India used to have this 5-6% annual growth rates in the economy, and that was helping the rest of the world. If India is struggling a little bit, the rest of the world will also struggle. So basically, these authors have proven that innovation is an absolute necessity for any economy, for any policy maker, for any politician should create policies in order to stimulate entrepreneurship and to stimulate the Gen Z to dare and say, I am becoming an entrepreneur. I'm going to be my own boss and I'm going to work for myself. And as I have stated before, growth is not something which comes automatically, but growth is something which day to day you need to work on. So how to go from creativity towards theory and practice? Become a micro agent. Start with yourself. Try to do things better in a very simple way. Or if you think about your own problems, a day-to-day office problem you face or a day-to-day problem you face in your transport, how can you improve that? And eventually, you will wipe out the existing players. Make sure that the ecosystem is available, that you use it to your benefit, and that you can then find the support from different areas. I mean, rural economy in India is very important. I mean, cities versus the rural areas is different. Let me give you an example of a government initiative where women were basically trained to deal with technology. They were trained how to operate drones, and these drones could then help the Indian farmers by monitoring how the crops were growing, how to spray the fertilizers, and all this. So innovation is a mindset, but also it empowers people, even from rural areas, to deal with modern technology in order to raise the productivity of rice or other crops. And be aware of it, that cultural innovation is an absolute necessity, and it might fail, but therefore you need to have the same and right culture to say, I will never give up and do it all over again and again and again. Policies encouraging experimentation. That Professor Prasad gives you a wonderful platform because he is having this leading program in which he gives you all the support. He gives you the IP, he gives you the startup support. And, you know, the worst thing he can say is no. He's not going to kill you. He's not going to be angry at you in case you fail, but he's going to be very proud of you when you succeed. And he's going to say, at the end of the day, this is our alumni, and look how the student project became a wonderful global story. That's what I encourage every single student and also faculty members to do. Support the ideas, try. You might fail several times. Who cares? Once, if you don't give up, you will succeed, and then, you know, the world will be yours. You have to look still at regulation, because you see that on a global scale, governments are becoming more and more protective. So they're trying to say, yeah, but you are not Indian made, or so many components are not Swiss made. We have, for example, in Switzerland, we have the concept of Swissness, which means that 60% of the components in a product should be Swiss made. If it's not Swiss made, you will have some problems. So this more and more is becoming an issue where you have to be aware of and what the competition is doing. Invest in research, invest in education, invest in networking. You know, being a student is not only coming to classes and is not only passing your courses. Being a student is interacting with your faculty members, interacting with guest speakers, build your network. Because at the end of the day, your life is very simple. What questions do they ask you in life? They only ask you 3 questions. First question they ask you is, which degree do you have? Because a degree is always an entrance ticket. Number 2, which language do you speak? I mean, yes, I'm aware that in India you have Sarvam AI, which is basically nothing else than a large language model that understands Hindi, Tamil, Kannada, Telugu, and all the other Indian languages. So actually, there is no linguistic barrier anymore in India thanks to this application. I'm aware of that, but learning languages is still an important aspect. And the third and probably most important question which anyone will ask you is, who do you know? Because if you have a large network which can help you and support you, that will facilitate your own life. So please invest in these extracurricular activities. Please go and play chess. Please go and play cricket together. Please make sure that you know everybody in your batch, because these are relations which you will carry on for the next 50 to 60 years. And then the last thing, this is more for the analytical people and the finance people, is what are the risks involved and how can I mitigate the risks? Is there any regulatory field which we have to be aware of, or are we willing to go to take the full risk and lose everything? That depends, of course, from person to person, but my main message is take risk and don't give up. So, what is the playbook for innovators? Curiosity kills the cat, but go for it and make sure that you not only learn finance and only finance, but you learn different disciplines and put it into action. You create your idea and you come up with an MVP, minimum viable product, so which is a rapid prototype. You test your hypothesis in order to see what works and what doesn't work. Once you have the feedback, you start to scale the product, and you have other problems, but these are only good problems because you can say, we created, we commercialized the product, and at the end of the day, we're creating value for the consumers because we are solving their problem. This is the simple way to go forward, which I encourage each of you to do so. Apply it. Knowledge is there. Look for the innovation. No matter in which industry you are, you can be in the healthcare industry, you can be in energy, even in education. You know, we are dealing today with AI tools, which, to be honest, are headaches for deans and professors because everyone says it's my work, but at the end of the day, we know very well that the students used the AI tools, and then after a long time, they finally admitted that it's their work. So we also have to learn, and we have to come up with new ideas. We cannot, as an educational institute, keep on doing the same thing, what we used to do 20 or 30 years ago. So be ready for that. And there are no barriers. Just experiment, try it out, keep on trying it. It will fail, don't give up, try again, and you will succeed. There are some case studies. I think I gave you the example of Sarvam AI to deal with Indian examples. There is also a group of students or engineers who actually participated in the Google Lunar X Prize. They didn't win it, but they were actually a further inspiration for the first privately funded spacecraft, which helped to develop the space tech industry in India. And I mean, India went to the moon, which was a very historical day, and a great success for all the people and the entire population involved there. So you see, once you have your mindset towards the right goals and philosophies oriented, everyone can succeed. The issue is you have to be creative. Everyone can be creative. Everyone can come up. Everyone experience day-to-day problems. So the advantage is there is no barrier at the beginning, because you can come from different industries. You can come from different sectors in order to solve it. So we are all innovators. We just have to dare it and do it. Is the knowledge enough? I tried to say that before. No, it's not enough. I explained then why and how, what you have to do. And then the second phase is, once you have the product and once you're succeeding, you need to incrementally renewal and your products or services. So it's a process which is going on over and over again. That can happen because your product is, for example, already launched in Karnataka, but your product is not available in other states in India. This would be a way to introduce your product into other states. So this is a way to extend the product life cycle of your product. The question for you at the end of this seminar is, if I want to be innovative, what is my role? What would I like to be? Would I like to be the inventor? Or would I like to be the commercial guy who basically commercialized the invention done by somebody else? I think this is a reflection you have to make for yourself, an analysis which you have to make for yourself at the end of the day. But I encourage you all to try and not to give up. That are basically my final thoughts and words in order to give you all a little bit more of the juice which you have heard so far. Here you have some of the sources which I used for this presentation. I encourage you to read The Lean Startup from Ries, and also in order to at least look at the book of Schumpeter. I mean, 1942 is a long time ago, but it's still very actual. I hope I could give you some insights on how to be innovative, how to convert knowledge into an innovative product. I thank you all for the opportunity. I wish you all great personal and educational success, and looking forward to use one of your innovative services or products in the near future. Thank you so much.
Yep, absolutely. I agree on your the point which you raised in between as to the kind of roles that institutions play. I would say the IRE is also one of the innovation, which has given birth to a lot of further innovations that the proud alumni of GIBS has brought into place, right? And this is a wonderful platform, as you said, and we have to be grateful for the people like you who have joined us and shared the insights. Professor Bert, with your permission, can I take a few questions from my students?
Please do.
Yep. I do have it with me in the chat box. Yes. There's one question here. How can we balance academic learning with real-world entrepreneurial experimentation?
Well, that's a very good question. Thank you. I would encourage every student to try to go and do placement as soon as possible and work as soon as possible, because of course, in the first place, you need to see and learn. And once you have that in your first year of education, then you can later say, I see there is a problem, or I see consumers are always coming back and facing this, and this is an issue. Maybe I have a solution for that. Come up with that knowledge, experiment yourself. If it requires capital, go to Professor Prasad. He has connections with investors, and then start and try, experiment. Just try to do it. Don't keep it purely theoretical. I think that's why you also have so-called lab courses where practical education is done. And I think that is a key differentiator compared to purely, between brackets, academic institutions.
Absolutely. I have an interesting question. I would definitely love to hear your views on this. What daily habits can help entrepreneurs stay creative and open-minded?
That's a good question. Entrepreneurship is a lonely job. Yeah. And this is the difference between motivation and discipline. I can be very motivated to do in the morning my half an hour biking, but once my motivation goes down, I will basically stop. That's not what we need in order to be innovative. In order to be innovative, we need to have discipline. No matter what is our motivation, we keep on doing it. We keep on trying it, and we keep on investing it. So my basic question is wake up, or my basic answer, excuse me, is wake up early, because the early morning sunrise is beautiful, and that's where you are fresh in your mind. And usually when you walk in one of the beautiful parks in Bangalore, that's how you get inspired. Then have a good breakfast, and then work and work, try and try, and never give up.
That's truly good. Fantastic. Somewhere in your presentation, you mentioned about cross-industry, uh, exposure. So there's a question: how can cross-industry exposure enhance an individual's innovative mindset?
Well, and career is not linear anymore. I mean, your parents probably worked for the Bank of India their entire life and entire career. Today, it is good that at the beginning of your career, you get some experience in different industries. Maybe before you took your PGDM program, you worked in a bank. Now you work in a marketing organization for a fast food retailer, and later you will work for a tech startup. You get these different experiences at the beginning of the career. You find out where you fit the best, what you like the most, because remember, most of your life you will spend at the workplace. You will not spend it with your family, not at home. So most of the time you will spend at the workplace. So it's better to love what you're doing than to just do something for a salary, because that will not make you mentally happy.
Very true. Very, very true. Yeah, this is a good question. I tend to hear this question quite a lot of times. How can, because, India is a market with a lot of MSMEs, micro, small, and medium enterprises. So the question is, how can small businesses compete with large corporation in terms of innovation?
That is a good question, but the
Yep.
solution is there, especially in the sense of, for example, the pharmaceutical industry. Remember, I said in my presentation, elephants cannot dance because elephants became too hierarchical, too many people, too much rules and policies. While a startup can be innovative, can solve a certain disease. I mean, these days with artificial intelligence, you can analyze and interpret data so much easier than 50, 60 years ago, or even 10 years ago, that you probably can solve a disease much quicker. That is where your opportunity is. Once you have done that, you can go with your solution to existing pharmaceutical players and say, look, this is what we have done. Here is where we add value to you. Are you willing to buy our product and services? So it is actually the answer, to put it in one line: be complementary towards the larger players. Then they will be interested in you.
Absolutely. Yeah. There's another question. Post 2020 or in 21st century, we have seen a lot of technological innovations, but the major innovations have happened before the technological era. How was that possible during those days?
Because you have creative and individuals who were leaders. I mean, look at Ford Motor Company.
Right.
The idea is automation of cars, the building of cars. Where is it coming from? Originally, it's coming from the meat industry. How can we shift from the meat industry, an idea from the meat industry, to build cars? So most of the time, these innovations are coming from individuals like yourself, people who dared, people who are able to look out of the window, out of the box, out of whatever you call it, and that brought it forward. Today, I'm lacking a little bit this kind of great believers and great doers. Everybody is very, let's see, we all want to have the quick rupee in our pocket, but we don't want to take so much risk anymore. Just dare and do it. That is the key thing in order to be innovative.
Very true. Very true. Well, is innovation a necessity today? Is it an option, or do you feel it's mandatory that every business should work on?
I think it's very simple, the last issue. It is mandatory, and it's a day-to-day issue in order to remain competitive, because you're not only competing in Bangalore, you're competing in India, you're competing in the rest of the world. And there are people who might be faster than you, have the same idea, and if you don't innovate, you will be out of business and end up in a poor situation. That's not something what we want.
Very true. I mean, that's definitely not an option anymore.
Exactly.
I will take up the last question. What role do interdisciplinary collaborations play in student innovation?
That's a good question. Well, bring your friends from the engineering department into your classroom or into your project group. Bring the smart kids of finance into your group. Bring the marketing people into your group, and you lead the team, and you will see what are the fruits the tree will carry.
Very true. That's great. Well, yes, I think we are back on.
Professor, please note that this was entirely written by a human, my presentation. Did I pass the exam?
Very much, yes, without a doubt. Otherwise, you wouldn't have been flooded with so many questions over here.
All right.
That's very. I mean, the best part of what you did was you made me to share the screen and the slide, which means I was 100% attentive, just like my student. The knowledge that the insights that you gave on the matter was incredible. I mean, it's a great learning for all of us. At times, it's very difficult to be a student when you are at the teaching profession. But though we all agree, all of us, are in the student mode, learning is continual. But today, I thoroughly enjoyed because I was there with you every second, and I was, listening to those case studies, those examples. I think you have given me a lot of those examples for my class as well. When I go to my, my classes with the students, these could be the best examples that I can share as well. I mean, that was so very apt. Thank you for that. I mean, on a personal note, I was really happy and privileged enough to be a part of your session today.
Thank you very much. It was a pleasure. And also thank you for your collaboration and doing the work.
Great. I mean, I say this is just a beginning. Together, GIBS and SBS Business School have a long way to go. This is just a beginning, Professor Bert. I really look forward to have you in Bengaluru again. You mentioned in the last time that you were here before.
That's correct.
But next time when you are here, you're not going back without visiting my campus.
All right. I'm looking forward then to say hello to your wonderful students.
Fantastic. Great. So that was a fabulous session by Professor Bert from the SBS Swiss Business School from Zurich, Switzerland, on a very important topic on innovation. And the insights that he threw was just amazing. My students had no doubt about it, had a great learning. And of course, those who missed, this will be uploaded in an official YouTube channel very soon so that you can have a relook of the whole session once again. But otherwise, I truly appreciate your patience listening throughout the session. I also appreciate the wonderful question that you posted for Professor Bert. That was incredible. And you heard that appreciation right from him. He was really impressed with the kind of questions that you posted. So keep it up. I mean, that's where I would say the outcome of such talks always is measured by your understanding and how well you take these learnings and execute it. So our wishes to you always there. On behalf of the entire students, management, faculties, I extend my heartfelt thanks to Professor Bert for his valuable time. Thank you so much. It was such an honor and pleasure listening to you, Professor Bert. I really wish to have you more number of such sessions in the coming days, an in-person session in my campus one day when you're in Bangalore next. That is my wish for sure.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. This is Professor Guru Prasad signing off. Thank you, everyone.